Namaste to all. तपाईहरु सुन्नु भएको छ है?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As introduced by Pradeep sir, now I'm currently working as Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation. Please, next slide, please. So today, basically, I will be talking about the research gaps and opportunities in the water resources sector. यो नेपालीमा गरौँ कि इङ्ग्लिसमा गरौँ अलिकति मलाई I will couple both of them. So we have currently, the government is now currently operating the 15th plant. We used to say the Panchavarshi Yojana. And what is written in that 15th plan regarding the research and development is that there are the 5 basic categories were written. And one is the water resources research and development and extension, modeling, capacity development, and collaboration and cooperation with institutions. And regarding the water resources, the basic sub-themes were defined in the plan. For example, the hydromet data analysis, discharge weather climate information, and the water industry disaster risk reduction, vulnerable zone mapping, sediment, flood, and diversion storage projects, numerical modeling, physical modeling, and finally training and capacity building. So now the government is working to execute such kind of the plan, and this is now the 3rd year of this plan. Next slide, please. So this slide, I would like to focus on the what is research and what is study. So there is a confusion between the research versus study. Normally, outside we know how the research is conducted abroad in the universities and also by some of the research institutions. And I'm focusing in case of Nepal. Research works are generally treated as consulting service. You have to do something and you don't have capacity. So what do? You just outsource to conduct that research and you hire some consultant. And consulting service is basically, they are the business oriented, right? So their task is to finish that project in a definite time. So they have the start time, end time. So the output of that service is not actually the research. That is just a simple study. And why this is happening? This is mainly due to the lack of orientation, lack of vision, and lack of human resources. But what we used to say that financial resources is lacking, that's not, okay? The government has enough financial resources to conduct the research. The only, the lacking part is the vision and the orientation. Next slide, please. So this is the map of the important river basins of Nepal, which was prepared by our colleague Madhavdev Acharya in Water and Energy Commission Secretariat. So this map shows that basically main 3 river basins, Koshi, Gandaki, and the Mahakali, and the southern river basins. So the Koshi river basin has the inflow from the China-Tibet part, and the Mahakali has some inflow from the Indian part. So the basic question here I would like to raise in this flow that how much water is flowing to Nepal and how much water is flowing out from Nepal. Okay. Yeah, we used to study that, okay, 225 billion cubic meter water is flowing out from Nepal. Data is about 30 years back when it was that 225 was coined. That was in 1995, and still people are saying the same data. So, and the less focus has been given in this area. So I would like to request to all of you that please focus, okay, how much water resource Nepal actually has, you know. So if due to the lack of data and information, many different the values may come out, right? Somebody may say 220, some say 230, but at least the research has to be carried out in this sector. Next slide, please. And this is also the figure for the groundwater potential. And this is the overall groundwater resource of Nepal overview by Shrestha in 2018. And here also, groundwater potential was mapped in 1985 to 1995 by the Groundwater Resources Development Board by different international organizations. And after that, again, no research. So just the last year, we have started to assess the groundwater potential in the Tarai region. So the people has to focus on this sector also, that how much actual, the potential of the groundwater in this Tarai and the Shivalik region. Next slide, please. And regarding the optimal integrated water resources management, we used to say IWRM nowadays to have towards a sustainable society. The first point we have to do is the baseline mapping or analysis of the basin. Today, where we are, right? So for that, we need to assess the physical environment, biological environment, and social environment. Then we have to get the stakeholder engagement, or the regarding the cross-cutting issues among three tier of engagement: local, state, and central level. And we have to prepare the decision support system. Okay, this is good, this is bad, this is worse, to the decision makers. And we have to give them the, okay, these are the plans, these are the projects, and from the different scenarios of the plans and the projects, the decision maker has to choose the efficient and the optimal plan or the project. And for that, we need to develop hydrologic model, river system and water allocation model, and develop and implement the plan and the projects. Next slide, please. So the basic input to water resource analysis is the digital elevation model, DEM. It is used in the modeling, hazard, risk mapping, whatever the sectors of the water resources. DEM is the basic input. And we have a lot of data set, okay? A lot of data set from 30 meter, 90 meter, 1 kilometer, and also we have the Department of Survey topographic data. But at this moment, what we are doing, all the researches, we used to say that, okay, after DEM data is used, finished. We just use, okay? We are now in the just the field of the application phase, right? But what are the errors in that data set? We are not focusing in that part, and just for the master thesis, it may be fine. But when you are a PhD scholar, then that is not permissible. So if you use that DEM, what is the error or the accuracy, we have to check in detail. Next slide, please. So this is the study done by Rocky, our colleague Rocky. Now he's in US, and his team conducted the assessment of vertical accuracy of DEM in West Rapid River basins. So here you can see 4 different scenarios by using SRTM data, AW3D, that is the ELOS, and CARTO, and ASTER. So what our people are doing, they used to say that as a research paper, which are published in different journals. And so these are the 4 different flood hazard mapping, right? So these are the flood depth. So you can see in the left side, the black line is the observed one, and are the DEM data set. So there is a very huge gap, and we are using this data set to make the flood mapping, inundation mapping, and from that mapping, we used to prepare the disaster mitigation plans, and so on. So the basic research gap is how to correct this DEM. That we have to focus, not just using the DEM, in river basins. So I would like to focus on this point. Next slide, please. And this is also the precipitation spatial. There are a lot of data set in case of Nepal, about more than 500, which was operated by Department of Hydrology and Meteorology. And again, this is a very basic input to water resource assessment and the management. So we have a very huge distribution, having more than 4,000 millimeter in Lumle and less than 200 millimeter in the Kaligandagi region. So any hydrologic model, they need this such kind of the spatial distribution of precipitation, which we used to ignore while conducting the modeling works, which we need to focus. Next slide, please. So this is a kind of the precipitation pattern in Narani River Basin. Left side is the data set of the DHM, and the right side is the spatial distribution of precipitation, which I prepared some 5 years back for one of my research paper. And this is a very key element, that how much water will be in that river basin, inflow, outflow, evaporation, everything judged and modeled based on this input. And this input was prepared by using the observed data set and the snow cover map and the spatial distribution of land surface temperature. Next slide, please. And again, we used to say that the climate change will do blah, blah, blah. There is no doubt. But when we see the research papers, when I used to review, the bias correction is not so much promising. So without any bias correction of that climate model, because the climate model is about 100 kilometer, 50 kilometer to 100 kilometer for the each grid. And this kind of research was carried out at Tamo River Basin. Here we have the 4 stations. And if we go to the climate model output, that covers the single grid. Okay, and the red line shows the raw data set, and the downward it shows the corrected one. So such kind of the bias correction of the climate model data set also has to be carried out, for which this sector also the people are using climate model data set, but without using this such kind of the bias correction method. So that has to be done also. Please, next slide. And the numerical modeling. There are a lot of the the models, conceptual, semi-distributed, physical, distributed, stochastic, deterministic, many more. But in case of Nepal, due to the such kind of the harsh climate and the fragile geology, we cannot go to the very the high elevation. Based on that one, the integrated modeling system web DHMS was developed in 2012 during my PhD research, which can assess the contribution of snow and glacier melt to total river runoff, which can estimate the the contribution of the rainfall, snow over land, snow over forest, glacier, debris covered glacier, and so on. Please, next slide. And recently, I applied that model in the Budiganga River Basin, and this is the spatial distribution of snow cover from the MODI satellite and the model one, and the right side one is the observed and simulated discharge. Why this basin was chosen? There, the Department of Electricity Development, DOED, under the ministry, is developing the Budiganga Hydropower project in this river basin. It's about 20 megawatt, and for which the hydrology is weak. So that's why we developed such kind of the model that can be used from the hydropower project. Next slide, please. And regarding the physical modeling, we have the only one lab in the Godavari from the Water Resources Research Development Center. So that we have to pay the attention to strengthen the lab to prepare the prototypes of interbasin water transfer projects or the storage projects, which now the government is, the planning, for example, the Bheri diversion and also the Sunkoshi Marine and so on in near future. But yeah, the less research and effort is given in physical modeling. And when I was at we plan to establish the landslide monitoring system at this lab. Uh, in the academic presentation, I heard the one uh, presentation about the use of the optical fiber, in the shallow sheeted landslides. So if I request him, to tie up, if that can be, collaborated with the WRRDC, that can be applied in Nepal also. Next slide, please. And regarding the data again, so you conduct research, you have the paper, we read the paper, then what? Unless and until that data is not integrated, it has no meaning, right? So that's why the integration of data related to different thematic layers of water resources, that mandate has been given to Water and Energy Commission Secretariat, WEX, by the National Water Plan. And at this moment, WEX is preparing river basin plan, and the water resources information system will be prepared and updated in near future by the WEX and also the research center. Next slide, please. And again, there are the different areas of the water resources, power, water supply, irrigation. So today I cannot talk a lot, but just I would like to highlight this, that the hydropower potential mapping has been prepared by WEX in 2019. So here you can see the different river basins. 72,000 megawatt has been proposed. Nowadays, we used to say that 83,000 megawatt is the gross hydropower potential, which was coined by Dr. Hariman in 1965. So here again, the empirical model used, HMS used. So there are a lot of the research gaps still exist here. So you can use the different hydrologic models to estimate the hydropower potential, and then say, okay, not the 70,000 megawatt, maybe the 90,000 or the 60,000. Again, it depends on the for duration curve. So Q20 or the Q40 or the Q60 and so on. Next slide, please. The slide is not so much clear. So the irrigation master plan has been prepared by Department of Water Resources and Irrigation in 2019. And the plan is now mainly focusing on the interbasin diversion projects. Here one is the Sunkoshi Kamala, Sunkoshi Marine, and Tamor. So yeah, the departments, they have coined and they are now entering into the very big mega projects, but resource is not tied up yet. Okay, so we used to say the value engineering, right? So that if we introduce the value engineering in the very beginning, the contract management, will be very easier at the later stage. The same thing here. So the research on the hydrology, research on the hydropower, irrigation, many themes that we can work together. Next slide, please. And again, I would like to focus on that, the link science to policy and policy to science. That what my professor used to say when I did my PhD in the University of Tokyo. As Sujit sir said previously, that the research has not been priority in case of Nepal, but now, I think nowadays it is gaining some kind of the popularity. And here, what I think is that you conduct research, you have the data, but what if it has not been used by the government? That's why always you develop any project that has to be linked with the government. That means a kind of the policy in some and then only I think the nation can get some benefit from your research. Next slide, please. So this will be the as we know, we are now entering into uh, federalism, and the water is taken as the concurrent subject. Means paniko adhikar to all, right? Federal, state, and the local. That means if a river is flowing from any local gaonpalika, so that gaonpalika also has the same right, and the provincial government also has the right, and also the central government has also right. Okay, and till now, this such kind of the river management law regulation has not been defined yet. So 2072, our constitution was promulgated, and today we have 2078, 8 years gone, and now we are focusing on the that bill. And here I would like to show in the center we have the Bagmati river basin. So province 1, province 2, province 3, right? So how to give the rights to each level of the government is the main issue today, and the government is now preparing the Water Resources Act. So I hope it will be prepared and submitted to the House soon. And also we have to focus on the transboundary issues and the downstream benefits, as to deal the flood inundation with India. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide, and here I would like to focus that research center has been established in Nepal in case of the water resources. It was established in 2072, and when I did my PhD in 2012, my professor, not only all professors used to say, please stay here, right? Oh, you've done a very good job. Oh, I will give that one. So please stay here, assistant professor, blah, 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 right? And when I went to Japan, I was determined that I will go back. Okay, I will go back to Nepal. And after my PhD, I went back to Nepal and then promoted to second class. And again, if your professor has faith on you, so he will always call you. And my professor again called me back as postdoc. I came back to University of Tokyo in Department of Civil Engineering, and I joined there as a postdoc for 2 years. And again, sensei requested, please stay here, right? I need you, so that we have to collaborate together. And I was again determined, no, I will go back. And I went back to my country in Nepal in 2015. So in 2015, I joined the Water and Energy Commission Secretariat. And during this, the government civil service, so if you are not in the first class position, you cannot, you can say, but your request and your suggestion and the recommendation will be difficult, to be implemented. And then I started having, reading the civil service exam for the joint secretary for water supply, agriculture, and water resources. I got succeed in water resources and irrigation, and my first posting was in this center as an executive director, Water Resources Research and Development Center. So here we have done the collaboration with ICHAM, International Center for the Risk Management, right? And that was in the Chukuba. And also now we are doing the collaboration with the KU and the IOE. So in this research center also, during my tenure there, we have started master thesis internship and the researcher. So as Sujit sir mentioned that, okay, after doing PhD, after doing masters from many different countries, when they come back to Nepal, they do not see any place, right, to conduct the research. That's why during my tenure at the center, so now there every year about 6 people will be hired as a researcher, and 6 people will be hired for the as a master thesis internship. So they will stay at the center for the whole 25, and they will obtain some kind of the salary from the government. So this is a kind of the new collaboration between the university and also for the researchers. Now I have been transferred from the research center to the ministry as a joint secretary, as the apex body, right? Again, so from this platform, I would like to request all, please collaborate with this research center. If you have any ideas, in to conduct any research in the water resources sector, please strengthen and to have the collaboration for the research center. And on behalf of the ministry, if anything that I can ease, so I will be always happy to do such kind of a favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.